I'm the Spear Keeper, and I give you a reason for every season. Today, I'm going to be talking about the new for 2025 Morris Costumes lineup. We did already see some animatronics from them, but I'm going to be covering the rest of their lineup. Before I move on, I just want to give a big thank you to Gino Haunter for the clips that I will be using in today's Morris Costumes video. But without further ado, let's go and see their lineup. Up first is one that was actually not there on day 1 of Transworld, but it was here on day 2. And this is going to be an animatronic with no name, but it might be my favorite. I'm going to call this the spell-speaking ghoul. And I'm going to call it this because last year, or a couple years ago from Morris Costumes, there was an animatronic called the spell-speaking witch, and it's somewhat similar to this. So for the sake of this video, I'm going to call it the spell-speaking ghoul. The spell-speaking ghoul sits in this type of throne that is kind of like a gravestone, which I think is very unique compared to any other prop. And he's actually holding a spell book. And with that spell book, it actually comes in handy because with this prop, there's actually writing on the spell book, and there's some LEDs in the spell book that are hidden to the guests looking at it, so they can project green LEDs on the ghoul's face, which I think is great that they actually have added lighting into this prop for the face because the green really fits him as he's that type of skeleton ghoul character, and I think that is just a very cool added detail that Morris Costumes did with him. I believe this guy is manufactured by SVI just because he has that type of SVI looking face. So if he is manufactured by SVI, that means that he does have some good quality with him. It also looks like he has a latex face, and he has some very good mouth movement that really fits him, and it just looks really good. More movement that he has is he has a wand in his hand, and the bottom of that actually lights up red, which is another lighten part of the sky, and he moves that hand up and down. But now the best part of this guy, and it sounds like that might be it, but it doesn't stop there. He is an actual jump scare prop. Basically, when he's sitting in his throne, he then pops up at the guest, kind of lunging towards them for that great jump scare. And I just think that is such a great added feature that this guy has just to make him so much better. I also really love his overall look with that mossy green look, and I just love his yellow LED eyes, which I don't typically like LED eyes, but I think they really fit this character to really set that tone. And another thing I really like is going back to his chair, it actually has some skulls on it, which I think is very cool to add to that type of dead, depressing vibe. But that's about it for the spell-speaking ghoul. Second up on the list is another one of my favorites from Morris Costumes. This is going to be the Mummy Groundbreaker. So we did actually get a leak of this guy a couple months back, but we're just now seeing him. With the actual video that I do have up, you can't see him too well as he is up high on a type of shelf. But overall, I really like this guy, and his sculpt is great. He is a static prop, but the thing I really like about him is that he's actually breaking through the ground as he is a groundbreaker prop, so he is a half body. But I think it really fits that type of mummy character. I really just love the overall sculpt of him with everything from the hands to the body to the face. One thing I really want to cover though is his hands. His hands are such a good size, which I think the proportions on this guy are just very good and very direct to an actual human, which I think is great as mummies are deceased humans. And again, going back to his hands, the sculpt is just great, and they really look really professional compared to other props in the retail market. So I'm really happy that Morris Costumes made this prop look really great. And I also love all the bandage wraps around him and stuff on his body, his arms, and his face, because I think that really adds to the mummy vibe, and I think it really tops off that guy. Another thing I really love is his actual face sculpt. His face is pretty generic for a mummy prop, but it really fits this guy because I really love the sculpt of his eyes, as they're just plain, which is really good for this guy, that they didn't go over the top with LEDs, lighting, or just the overall sculpt of his face. He has these just like little black eyes, which really fit him, and then he has that super creepy mouth, which is also black. Same with his nose, that's also black, and I think the black just really suits him for the tone of this character. Third for Morris costumes is going to be the Corroded Reaper, and like the mummy that I just covered, this guy is also a sort of groundbreaker, but on the other hand, this guy is an actual animatronic. I really love the overall tone of this guy, as he's this type of mossy skeleton that's kind of breaking out of the ground. As I mentioned, he is a sort of groundbreaker prop. He has a type of green creepy cloth, which I think adds to that mossy vibe, and I really love his overall sculpt of his face. His face seems to be latex, and it's just this really generic looking skeleton, but that really sets him to be that type of Reaper look. And another thing I want to point out about this guy is that he actually has a lantern that comes with it, and the lantern actually lights up, which is again some added lighting, which I think Morris Costumes is doing a great job with this season with all that added lighting on their props. I also think that the hand sculpt on this guy is really good, like the mummy. That skeleton hands just look really great for this guy, and I love the sculpt on them. Another thing I really like is his yellow LED eyes, as I think they really fit him. Just like the first prop I talked about, the spell casting ghoul. And I think the yellow LEDs both really fit with these two characters, as they're both that type of mossy looking, and I think the yellow LED just fits both of them perfectly. Fourth on the list is going to be the teddy bear clown. Now this was a highly anticipated prop for me to see, just because I really liked the overall look of this guy when we saw the leak back a couple months ago. And now that I'm actually seeing him, I wasn't expecting for him to do this. His animation is basically he has mouth movement, and in the actual video he was broken, but what he's supposed to do is kind of lunge and like kind of throw his teddy bear at the guest, which I think is a cool animation, but I wasn't really expecting that. I was kind of expecting him to kind of just stand there and talk, but I really like the added movement, because I think that really adds to the scare factor of this guy, as he does have a sort of jump scare, which I think is nice. And I also really love his sort of color scheme that he has, because his colors is just all over the place. He has like orange reddish shoes, he has green pants, and then his shirt is just all over the place, and I really love that because it really sets a type of clown color scheme, which we don't usually get anymore. We kind of get just like super vibrant colors, which the colors on this guy are vibrant, but they're more on the dull side of that type of orange and green, which I think is really great for this prop, and it makes him really unique. Another thing that makes him unique is he has this super like frizzy hair that's like orange, which I think really fits him, and it's kind of like only on the sides, which I think is cool because he doesn't have any hair on the actual top, which is just great, and it really fits his character. Another thing is he's quite short. I think he stands around 3 to 4 feet tall, but I think his size works for him, as he's kind of, what I take from it is he's kind of like a child clown, as he does have that teddy bear. And leading me into my next point, his teddy bear. His teddy bear looks really good, as it is pink with which contrasts from the rest of the color scheme, which I think really makes the teddy bear pop. And another thing about the teddy bear is that it's actually holding a knife, which I didn't realize the first time I actually saw the leak for this guy. Now seeing that the teddy bear has a knife, I think that's a really cool added factor on the teddy bear clown. Next up on the list is the Vertebrae zombie couple. I did cover this animatronic before in a previous video when we first got a look at Morris Costumes at the Halloween and Party Expo in Las Vegas, Nevada. But I'm going to be taking a deeper dive into it today, as we did see it at Transworld and we got a way better look at it. First up, I want to talk about the gore. We don't usually get a ton of gore from companies now, as they have went more on the family-friendly side, so I'm very happy that Morris Costumes included that type of goriness with this prop. The widow, who is holding her husband's head, has a bit of gore on her cheek, and the husband's head that she's holding actually has his vertebrae exposed. The vertebrae is a very rare bone to see in animatronics, as we never seen this before. And I really like that Morris Costumes did it with this vertebrae zombie couple animatronic, because I just think that is just so unique and scary. And another added feature on the vertebrae zombie couple is that the vertebrae actually wiggles around, which is just so creepy and unsettling that it actually wiggles, looking like it's still alive and moving in the husband. The husband and the woman both share phrases back and forth from what I could tell from the Transworld demo video, and they actually talk between each other, which I think is very unique and very cool that they actually can talk with their phrases back and forth, just because I think that is so cool that Morris Costumes did add that with them. And I really love the husband's eyes, as they are this type of, not projection, but they're unique and they're not normal LED eyes, because the eyes actually move without them actually being servo, which I think is very cool that Morris Costumes did add that. But overall, I really like the vertebrae zombie couple from Morris Costumes. Following up, the vertebrae zombie couple is going to be Snippers the Clown. And again, I did already take a look at this guy in a previous video, but I'm going to take a deeper analysis on him in this video. Snippers the Clown is a reskin of the Groundskeeper, which is a unreleased animatronic from Morris Costumes that was supposed to be released last year, but instead they decided to take a different approach on it this year using a clown. I personally do like the Groundskeeper better, but I still think it's a cool concept to have that scissor with an animatronic. Snippers' animation is where he kind of cuts with his scissors. He has side-to-side movement and mouth movement, so Snippers is a very tech-savvy animatronic with tons of movement all around. I also really love his color combination, as he has that yellow and purple color combo, and then he has green hair and red scissors, which I think all the different parts of him really contrast from each other, making him really stand out to the guest that's approaching him. And another thing I want to talk about is that he is manufactured by SVI, and he is a pretty generic looking SVI clown, but I think with that different approach on him, being that he does have scissors, is unique from all the other SVI clowns. But I do like that he does have a latex face, because that also means that he does have nice quality to him, as he is manufactured by SVI. And the last thing I want to talk about is his face sculpt. I really like his face sculpt, as he kind of has that Joker looking makeup around his mouth, which I think is really cool, with that type of red almost lipstick. And then his face sculpt just looks really great in general, really giving that creepy clown look. Second to last on the list is a prop that I didn't cover in my previous video, because this is going to be the Cauldron Stern Reaper. This is a reskin of some other props from Morris Costumes in the past, but this one is probably my favorite out of them all, as he is stirring a cauldron using his ladle. In his pot, he has some type of bones, which I do think is cool that they added that compared to other props that they didn't have anything in them. But I don't like how the actual bones look. I think they could have had a better approach on that. But I still like that they tried something new out of their comfort zone. And I really love his stirring motion, as he's using that ladle to stir the pot around. And as he's stirring it around, his head kind of moves like up and down in a way, and his mouth moves, which I think is cool that all the parts of him actually work together to give him that fluid movement, which I think is great. And I really love his gray creepy cloth that he actually has on him to kind of give him that added texture, because I think that really adds to him. And I don't know if I'm correct, but it does look like that this guy is also made by SVI, so if he is, he does also have some good quality added to him. And another thing I want to talk about is his ribcage. His ribcage is also a very detailed part of him that I really like, just because it really adds to him. You can't see it too much, but when you actually do take that into consideration, it does look very good. I also really like the idea that he is stirring something in a cauldron, as we usually only get that with witches, but Morris Costumes took a different approach on that and actually used a type of Reaper creature to give it that stirring effect. Finally, I'm going to talk about two props in one, as they kind of go along together because they both kind of look like dolls. First up, I'm going to talk about the Apocalypse Twins. I did cover these in my previous video, but I'm going to be taking a deeper dive into them, just like some of the other props in this video. Basically, what the Apocalypse Twins are is they're basically twins that are trying to escape an apocalypse, but I don't really get that vibe as they kind of look like dolls with their face, which is why I'm placing Sally the doll in with them because they kind of fit that doll vibe. But for their movement, they kind of move side to side, kind of like leaning, and they do that together, which I think is cool because they are twins, so they have that movement together at the same time. I also like the red LEDs that they have in their eyes just because it kind of adds color to them, as their face is a very dark and dull gray color, so I like that the red actually adds some contrast to them. And I also wish that they didn't actually include the teddy bear that they both hold, just because I feel it's kind of unnecessary. I would have liked that they actually holded hands or something instead, because I feel like the teddy bear doesn't actually fit it. It does have a red LED eye, but again, I just don't think it actually fits this type of prop. I don't really know why they went with that, but overall, I'm not a huge fan of the Apocalypse Twins. I'm moving on to the final prop in this video. Is going to be Sally, which is basically a doll prop. She's not super of an animatronic. She's kind of just like not a static, but I'm going to cover her in this video. Sally is basically a doll prop, and she has these blue LED eyes and kind of a blue color scheme, which I really like because that blue is just, we don't get much blue color scheme props anymore, but I like that Morris Costume did that with her. I also like her movement as she moves her arms up and down, and I like that they're not actually in sync, making it more realistic. And I also love how her actual face looks. We don't get many creepy doll animatronics anymore. I think it's very fun that Morris Costumes actually made a creepy doll, because if we do get a doll animatronic, it's either not creepy or it doesn't look like a doll. But I do think Morris Costumes went the right way with Sally of making her that type of ominous doll. But let me know what you think of Morris Costumes down in the comments below, because I personally think that this year's lineup was pretty good. Anyway, make sure you remember that I'm the Spirit Keeper, and I give you a reason for every season. Bye.